the start of this project, we had just finished doing our treatments for our documentaries. Clive asked us to think about what documentary we wanted to do and what our ideas were. I based my documentary off the coronavirus, and it was aiming at people who have either been furloughed or people who have still had to work through lockdown. It went really well. I did as much research as I could about, people who have been stuck in furlough, or I spoke to people who have had to work through the lockdown and heard their struggles, and heard about the people who are in furlough, their struggles, and I got some good research in that area. Obviously, because of the coronavirus, we've had to do our documentaries in lockdown, which it was hard, but at the same time it was easy as well, because there was less people to speak to, but they were resourceful as well, because the people who I spoke to, they'd worked through the lockdown, they'd worked from the first and the second lockdown, so and I heard about their struggles and how they had to go through the lockdown, and it was resourceful. It was very resourceful. Personally, I think doing this unit has been stressful because I haven't been able to go to the college. It has been difficult to find the motivation to do the work at home. And it is hard. Like, I have done the work. I have managed to do the work at home, but myself, I'd rather go to college and do the work rather than do it at home, because when I'm at college, I feel more engaged. I've got people around me, other students doing their work. It makes me motivated. Whereas when I'm at home, I don't feel motivated. I just feel like I'm sitting in my room doing work and I'm not feeling it. It's like what I wanted to do was like go out and do more filming, but because there's only a limited amount of time that I can do the filming, there's only a limit that I can do. I can do some establishing shots, I can do some interviews, but I can't interview strangers. It has to be my family, and it has worked out. It has worked out quite well, but not to the extent that I wanted it to. So filming the documentary was good. I enjoyed it. I've downloaded an app where I can edit the footage, edit a little bit of music to it, some copyright-free music. I've sent a trial, like a little bit of a record, like a little edit to my tutor. I sent it to him. He's reviewed it. He hasn't given me any feedback on it, but I have showed it to him, and I intend to, get feedback once I've handed in the unit. So all in all, the filming it has been good, but not to the extent that I wanted it. Pre-production stuff, that sort of thing was a little bit difficult. Like, I got my research. I did as much research as I possibly could. I did a lot of qualitative research on the coronavirus. A little bit of quantitative about, because I needed to get numbers of how many people have went into lockdown, how many businesses had shut down, and it was a bit of a nightmare, but I managed to get it done. It wasn't much of a nightmare. It was quite easy, but pre-production stuff does tend to be a bit stressful. Then, of course, I had to write a script, well, like a questionnaire, interview questions to ask my interviewees. That wasn't so hard. I knew the questions that I wanted to ask, and I knew how I could adapt, like add on to the questions. So that wasn't so difficult. Yeah, it went really well. I've enjoyed it, but as I said, there's just so much more that I wanted to do. Like, I can go out. I took photos of buildings, like some buildings that have been like shut down, and I've just been able to do that and do some filming. And I've managed to edit together, so I think it looks good. I think it looks really good for what it is. I just hope for my FMP it's going to be much better, much better. The way I filmed my documentary was I did the interview at home. The establishing shots that I did were by my house, just up the road. However, the shots that I did, the shots that were caught on the bus and at my mum's workplace were actually filmed by my mum and one of her friends. So I couldn't actually leave the house to go into town to do some filming. Only my mum could do that because she works in town. So I couldn't really film anything whilst, I couldn't really leave the house. So that's kind of what I had to do. I had to ask her, can you film some of the footage of how empty the buses are? Can you film some of the footage how empty town is? And yeah, that's kind of the way I had to do it. But the interview that I shot at home, that was all me. The establishing shots, the photos, that was all me. So there were 2 documentaries that Lee asked us to look into and analyse, and one was called 0 Hour, and the other one was Rio Ferdinand's Being Mum and Dad. 0 Hour was about the massacre. Was one of the biggest massacre shootings, one of the school shootings in America, and it was about 2 students who basically nearly killed all the students and teachers at their school, and ended up killing themselves as well. The second documentary was about Rio Ferdinand, the football player, and it was about his wife dying of cancer, and he had to take care of his 3 kids by himself at the time. And it talked about how it affected him mentally and physically, So those 2 documentaries, they were good to research, good to analyse, especially when you're looking at the technical and symbolic codes as well. So it was good to research. So yeah, that's what Lee asked us to do throughout the unit. If I were to do it again, I'd make sure that when I do a documentary, I'd make sure that I do it when there's no coronavirus, no lockdown, because that's really affected, the whole going out, talking to people process, the whole socialising thing. It's just can't be done at the moment. So if I were to do it differently, I'd make sure that there is no coronavirus or no lockdown. It makes it much more professional if I'm going out and talking to strangers rather than just talking to your family. It's more professional, and it's developing better communication skills. So that's what I do differently. Compared to other professional documentaries, I wouldn't say mine's professional. I'd say it's a decent documentary. I've supplied the information, I've talked about, the figures. Well, I've talked about quite a lot of stuff about the coronavirus, and I've had the interviews with people, but I wouldn't say mine's professional. I'd say it's like quite amateur. Well, not amateur, but sort of like a learner's documentary. Someone who's starting out, learning the ropes about documentaries. So I'd say it's more like that. Yeah. hopefully if I do another documentary, it'd be more professional. Because, you know, I'll be able to go out more, film a lot more stuff. So, yeah.